Hey guys, this is Chris Lawton, Module 5, EDL 856, Understanding My Community, Norwalk. So just a little background, city population is about 88,000. Our population growth is about 3.7%, which if you look at communities around us, their population is decreasing, while our population overall as a city is increasing, and also our school population is increasing. You can also see that we are a diverse city. 52% of our population is white, 28% is Hispanic, 14% African American, 5% Asian, 1% American Indian, and our Hispanic population has grown considerably over the last 10 years, and I anticipate that will continue in the near future. We're also a diverse town in the sense of socioeconomic background. You have people who are doctors, lawyers, high-ranking corporate officials, and you have people that are living in homeless shelters and everything in between. So it's a very interesting place to live, and one of the reasons why I like living here. Customs and traditions. So we have a big school system. There are 2 comprehensive high schools, 4 middle schools, 12 elementary schools within our city. I would say our city does a very good job of embracing and celebrating our diversity. And as I mentioned, we do have a growing minority population. Last year at the high school I teach at, we had almost 100 students that came over the course of the year, many of them from Central American countries that were admitted to the school. So as a result, we had to hire additional teachers and support staff to meet their needs. Athletics is very important. We've had several strong athletic programs over the course of the years. Many players that have gone on to play in the NFL, NBA. We've had some great people, great athletes come through. I would also say that one of the unique things about our city is we have multiple generations of families. So not necessarily multiple generations of families living in one house, but you'll have a lot of cases where the grandparents, the parents, and the children are all living in the same town. So unlike other communities around us where a lot of those people will grow up and move away, a lot of them will grow up, go to college, and then come back and live in the city. We have 2 big celebrations as a community, 4th of July and Memorial Day. So 4th of July, we offer fireworks down at the beach, and then Memorial Day, we have a huge celebration, huge parade that goes through the center of the city. And another thing that we've had for about 40 years is the Oyster Festival, where they have bands that come in, different types of food, rides for the kids. I mean, it attracts thousands of people to the community. Population characteristics, you can see how that varies based on age, sex. 52% of our population is female. Education, most people in the city do have high school education at a minimum, and our number of people that go to college is about 41%, and that's rising. Occupations, it's a mix of blue collar and white collar workers, and I would say it's pretty even split between the 2. Communication, a lot of people will get their information from our local newspaper, which is both in print and online, even though a lot of people access the online version. We have a local news channel, which provides up-to-the-minute news information, weather, traffic, all that. Social media, a lot of people use Facebook and some of the groups on Facebook. So for example, we have a Norwalk Public Schools parents group on Facebook where they do a good job of disseminating information, but also it can sometimes be people's soapbox where they get on there and voice some of their opinions and concerns. City and school websites are very informative. We started using a text blaster in our school a couple of years ago. I think it's a much better way of communicating with people compared to email, even though we still do use email. And all information now is disseminated in English and Spanish to meet our clientele. Community groups, we do have several prominent groups that are very influential. So for example, the NAACP is very involved in the community and some of the things that happen within the community and our schools. American Legion, they help out with the commemoration of 9/11. They help out with Veteran Day activities within our schools. Rotary Club, they provide internships and other opportunities for our kids to get involved. And then also our Board of Education, Community Center. One of the community centers in the city is the Carver Center, and they provide after-school care and also extra help for students when it comes to academics and tutoring, so they do quite a bit. We have a very strong teachers union that fights and advocates for the teachers and some of our needs. And then also within schools, many of our schools have different advocacy groups. So for example, we have an African American parents organization, Hispanic American parent organization, where they try to garner more support and more parent involvement. And then we also have a parent club that is responsible for raising funds and helping out various aspects within schools. Maybe it's helping out different departments or organizations garner funds for things that they want to do. Leadership. Especially in light of COVID-19, our governor has taken a huge step with leadership as we start to reopen, and also as we look forward to what our schools will look like in the fall. Our mayor's played a big role as well. Our city was hit the hardest out of any other in Connecticut, so he's been at the forefront of that reopening process and has been rightfully cautious considering what we've gone through. Superintendent plays a big role in setting curriculum and implementing some of the policies. Our superintendent will be leaving at the end of this month, and we have a new superintendent starting in July. Also, our Board of Education plays a very big role, along with the Common Council, church leaders, athletic directors, and other elected officials. So our state and U.S. senators and representatives, they play a very big role in getting involved in our community and our schools. So some of the characteristics that I would look for in a community leader: they must be invested in the community, so they've put in the time and obviously care deeply about our community. Maybe they have roots, maybe they grew up here, maybe they have their children go to our schools. Those are things that I would be looking for. Or maybe they have financial investments, so they might be a business leader and their business is dependent on really the success of our city moving forward. So those would be some things I would look for. Someone that's caring, compassionate, a visionary that can adjust and adapt to changing times. An advocate who's going to stand up for what the city needs and not take no for an answer. Communities' need before their own. Someone who's experienced, intelligent, and charismatic, so they're going to bring other people to the cause and really inspire and motivate others to get involved. Economic conditions: we've seen a huge construction boom over the last 2 years in our city. A lot of new office buildings, apartments, condos have gone up. And our city workforce is, I would say, unique. We have a good amount of people that live here in the city and then commute into New York City, which is about 45 minutes away. A lot of people involved in the service industry, landscaping, construction, city corporations, Diageo, we have Datto, several big corporations that do provide a lot of jobs. School system: many people who live in the city work within the school system in one way or another. And we also have a big oyster and fishing industry because we are located right on the water. Housing: you can see the home values. It's expensive, $427,000 on average, and then our taxes are very high as well, which I'll get into in a little bit. So political structure: politics and education work hand in hand. Funding: we get money from our local government, but also state government and federal government, and we've been seeing some of that money through the CARES Act recently. Our evaluations are tied in by state mandates, so all those evaluation systems that are done for teachers is overseen by the state. And then curriculum and textbooks: there's a lot of political underlyings and playings that go on behind the scenes that impact that. And for us, our biggest expenditure as a city is definitely education. If you look at our city budget that was just approved last week, it's $385 million, and $208 million of that goes towards education. So we've seen a decrease in state financial assistance over the last few years, and in spite of that, they announced in December that we will be building a new high school, actually the school in which I work at, and 80% of that construction will be paid by the state, and the 20% will be paid by city taxpayers. But of course, there's strings attached in terms of what that construction looks like and some of the programs that will be offered. So that remains to be seen if and when this will go through. Social tensions: if you look at our school population, about 40% is white, 35% is Hispanic, 20% African American, 5% Asian. So our schools are very diverse. But in spite of that, these guys have been going to school, most of them, from kindergarten on, so that's all they know. And discrimination is not very prevalent within our schools in spite of how diverse our schools are, which I think is really a credit to the community. Gangs, we do have some students who are involved in gangs. We do have an inner city, and gangs are going to happen from time to time, so we do see that. Cliques, I would say you see them mostly based on socioeconomic status, ethnicity, extracurriculars, meaning like athletes, kids that are in band, kids that are in the play. And I think a lot of that is they're just comfortable being in those situations, and sometimes they don't understand some of the other groups, which may cause for the cliques to form or discrimination to occur. Extra sources of information. So school board, all their meetings are broadcast live over YouTube, and the minutes are posted on the Board of Education's website. Surveys are done twice a year by students and parents, also teachers. Census Bureau is another great way to get some information, and then our accreditation body, NEASC, provides a lot of information on our school as well in the direction we're heading. Power structures, our mayor and superintendent have recently been going at it because they want to have in-person summer school, and the mayor does not want that. Our school board has had some quarrels over the years based on who is on that board, and some of them have not been able to work together, unfortunately. Elected politicians, one of those elected politicians is State Senate Majority Leader Bob Duff. He was a Norwalk High School graduate, and he's pushing for a new high school in town. And then taxpayers have been very involved recently. Some of them want new schools because our schools, most of them were built in the 1960s. And then you have another group of taxpayers who think too much money is going towards our schools. And then you also have schools that have individual governance committees. So our school governance committee will be involved in how our money is being spent, and oftentimes there is a power struggle there as well between the principal, parents, and then staff. Multicultural issues. So I believe our community does a great job of embracing and being inclusive based on our diverse population. Dress code, we do have a strict dress code. Students do not have to wear a uniform, but it is strict in terms of what they can and should wear. And then behavioral expectations. All schools have behavioral expectations that are clearly outlined. There's a code of conduct, and recently we've been following restorative justice practices. And then measuring public opinion. Students and parents participate in surveys. Our Board of Education is open to the public, so people can go and speak. We also have focus groups, so we will have a new later start time next year, which was based on information that came out of focus groups. Some of those focus groups also work with budgets and how much money will go to certain places and how that will be allocated. And we also had a focus group for our new superintendent search and what we are looking for to build a profile of what that superintendent might look like. And then lastly, public opinion surveys. This information is used to drive policy moving forward. I think we can improve accessibility. Most of it's done online, but not everybody has access, so maybe personal interviews, questionnaires, maybe mailing it or phone calls. It might help us tap into all stakeholders. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it.